When I saw they should have had a golf course.
Golf course.
Mayor Panko?
Crazy.
Mayor
I'm so
Panko?
nice when they had it down.
Yeah.
Mayor Panko from Austin.
He displaced them.
Good afternoon. On Monday, June 29th, 2026, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which the falls is now located has been the site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. With that, we'll call the meeting to order at 5:01. I've got a recommendation that with the Accessibility Committee bringing a request to Council tonight, that we add a priority issue as 9.1 to discuss the request that's coming from the Accessibility Committee. Is there someone that would move to approve the agenda as amended?
Sure.
So moved by Mayor Panko, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that the June 29th, 2026 Special Committee of the Whole meeting agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? That's carried. Any disclosure or pecuniary interest? Councillor Miller?
Thanks. I need to declare a conflict for item 9.3. I'm not sure if that number has changed now that we've changed the agenda, but it's the business recycling report, as I lead a business downtown that uses that service.
Great, thank you. Mayor Panko?
I will declare the same item as my business is located in the same district.
Okay, great. Councillor Quinn?
Doing the same thing.
3 for 3. Any other conflicts of interest tonight? Seeing none, we'll move to our delegation with Chair Lucy Bingley of our Accessibility Advisory Committee, who we will welcome to the podium. And we've got Mr. Emmett Prue joining us online. We'll be giving a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Thank you to Mayor Panko and councillors and Director McMahon for the opportunity to share some experiences and some insight into from the Accessibility Advisory Committee into the proposed Beckwith Street Bridge project and the Lombard Street intersection. As a committee, we saw this as a good opportunity to look at some safety and accessibility considerations of the intersection. Some of the members took part in a site visit, and they were very great in sharing their thoughts and some of the challenges and concerns they face when trying to use that intersection. We visited the site from a mobility issues perspective, recognizing that there's many types of disabilities, both invisible and visible, that need to be considered. The following were some of our observations. There's not enough time to cross the street before the traffic light turns. Many people must avoid the intersection altogether, as they do not feel safe using it or having their child or children using it. The black railing looks solid from the corner, making it almost impossible to see oncoming traffic through the right-hand turn lane. By the time someone trying to cross gets their bearings and is ready to continue crossing, there's already traffic approaching quickly. There's limits to accessing the park because of safety concerns with crossing the other intersection. The committee also voiced concerns for people with hearing or visual impairments. Some suggestions that were discussed to address some of these issues were having caution lights to warn people that there's oncoming traffic, having the traffic light time extended, and as well to have visual and auditory alerts to indicate the timing. In conclusion, safety and accessibility for residents and tourists in Smith Falls is our priority. It is important to recognize that the amount of people in need of physical support is ever changing, and we need to ensure that everyone feels important and valued citizens of Smith Falls. Thank you for considering the feedback from the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and I believe all of you share our commitment to pedestrian safety and accessibility. And with that, I will introduce Emmett Prue, and I'll give you some background on Emmett. Emmett is a professional engineer specializing in municipal transportation planning, roadway design, and community safety. He is currently the program manager of neighborhood traffic calming with the City of Ottawa and co-chair of the Ontario Traffic Council's Active Transportation Committee. Emmett is part of a team responsible for implementing traffic calming, urbanizations, complete streets, and transportation demand management strategies within the City of Ottawa. Emmett has also previously worked extensively with development transportation impact assessments and multimodal level of service evaluations of complex projects. With that, I'll turn it over to Emmett, who's joining us virtually.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Do you have my presentation available, or should I share it myself?
No, I've got the presentation up on the screen, Emmett, if you just want to tell me when to advance the slides.
Okay, I'll just follow along then. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for that introduction, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come speak. Essentially, this presentation is a presentation that I've given a few times at, to Transportation Association of Canada or the Ontario Traffic Council, just documenting the City of Ottawa's protected intersection experience. So hopefully you find it interesting and insightful for the projects that you want to do in Smith Falls. Next slide. So broad strokes, I'll talk about conceptual adoption of the protected intersections in Ottawa, how the design has evolved, standardization, and the results that we've experienced over the last 10 to 15 years. Next slide. So why, when we rebuild intersections for a full renewal of full reconstruction of an intersection, do we typically go for protected intersections? Protected intersections combine best practices from the Netherlands and North America. They improve safety for vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians and cyclists. They improve comfort and perceived safety of both cyclists and pedestrians. And the perceived safety, of course, is important to make more people feel comfortable and attract interested but concerned cyclists. And that in itself is important for us to achieve our transportation master plan goals of increasing sustainable mode share. So the number of people, the percentage of people that choose cycling, walking, or transit. Next slide, please. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So that's just the Transportation Master Plan and official plan policies encouraging more mode share of cyclists and walking as well. Next slide. So this would have been about 10 years ago, the conceptual adoption of protected intersections in Ottawa. It's from a video Nick Falbo did in protectedintersection.com, and that was, I believe, in 2014. And it does a good job of documenting why protected intersections are useful in terms of good understanding of intersections, of where people are going to be in an intersection for all road users. So a traditional intersection, we're still, we're at a point where we're trying to bring bike lanes through an intersection, of course. We're trying to accommodate all users. But particularly for cyclists turning left, there's lots of different ways you could do it. You could come out of the bike lane and try to join the general traffic left turn lane. Or you could move through the intersection, make use of perhaps a two-stage left turn box. So you kind of proceed through the intersection, you do a bit of a hook maneuver, and you wait in the left turn box, and then you proceed straight through the intersection on a second go. Perhaps on the approach to the intersection, you're sharing a lane with right turn traffic as well. This all adds up to a lot of cycling movements that don't have a lot of protection, that might not become comfortable for all users, and that could add a lot of confusion both for vehicle drivers and for cyclists. Next slide. Sorry, next slide again, I think. There you go. So for protected intersections, this is helped. Sorry, next slide one more time. So the cycling movements are consolidated. Everyone that is traveling through the intersection or turning left proceeds through the intersection on the first green light. If you're turning left, then you wait in the far side corner, and you're behind a protected safety island, and then you wait for the next green light to make your full left maneuver. So that's a two-stage left. It's generally very comfortable. You get a forward waiting area as a cyclist and a pedestrian area ahead of motor vehicle traffic, so you have better sight lines to where you're waiting. You have a corner safety island protecting your waiting area, and the cross ride, so the cycling crosswalk and the crosswalk are set back from the motor vehicle turning traffic, which improves sight lines for right turning vehicles. Next slide. So just a little brief history. I'll go through this really quickly. In Ottawa, the first protected bike lane was on Laurier Avenue in 2011. That was just a retrofit with precast curbs, as you can see there on the left. The first attempt at protected cycle tracks, as we call them, at sidewalk grade was on Churchill Avenue in 2014. It's a similar implementation as Beckwith in the sense that it had a lot of intersections where the cycle track and the sidewalk would proceed through side streets, but there was no cycling facilities on the side streets, so there was no protected turning maneuvers. Although Beckwith, I will say, is a much nicer implementation. Next slide. Subsequently, in 2017, we did Main Street, and we provided cycling facilities there as well, cycle tracks. And this was maybe our first kind of traditional protected intersection that we did at Main Street and Riverdale. As you can see, there's very large right turn channels in the old design, and we changed that to be a more typical intersection with our right turn channels, but a protected intersection. In the top right, you'll see a paver stone, and that was at that time what we were attempting to use as delineation between the cycle track and the sidewalk. So that was an attempt at providing tactile delineation for people with vision loss to separate for them, be able to detect where the cycle track starts and the sidewalk ends. Next slide. In 2019, here's another protected intersection done very similarly to Main and Riverdale with a lot of ECRADE and those tactile pavers. Next slide. At exactly that same time, we are also retrofitting St. Laurent and Donald, removing the right turn channels and replacing them with protected intersection corners, as well as updating a lot of the signal phasing to have more protected left turns and permissive protected right turns to improve safety as well. This is a lot different than the Dines intersection in that the cycle tracks are not at grade and they're separated from the sidewalk by a full curb. Next slide. So our policies required us at this point in sort of 2017, 2019 to whenever we were rebuilding an arterial or a collector street to upgrade to cycle tracks. And it said that we must provide protected features at the intersection. However, we didn't have any design guidance on how to do so. Next slide. And this was why some of those previous intersections that I was showing were kind of inconsistent with each other. So we knew we needed a protected intersection design guide, and we created one. We wanted one that was detailed, specific to the Ottawa context and experience. The weather that we get, of course, very similar to Smiths Falls, but different in a lot of other places in North America or Europe. We want it to be transparent, consistent for designers and users, and universally accessible. Next slide. So just going through the guide, there's guiding principles about like why we're doing it, what kind of users we're building an intersection for, and why. We want to, as we're going through an intersection design, look at context, constraints. Is there a bridge on the approach, for example, and minimum quarter radius we might need for truck movements and that sort of thing. Then we look at selecting different types of protected intersection corners, depending on the context. Next slide. Just to go through again some of the elements of a protected intersection corner. So there would be a pedestrian refuge between the cycle track and the sidewalk, and that's where pedestrians would wait and where the accessible pedestrian signal push buttons would be located. There's a cycle track, of course, and it has minimum bicycle turning radii to make sure all bicycle types can maneuver in the protected intersection. There's forward waiting areas for cyclists and pedestrians. And again, that's important for sight lines for vehicles. Vehicles can see the pedestrians and cyclists ahead of them, and so it helps. And it's the cross-ride setback. There's a certain minimum distance that we provide for the cross-rides and crosswalks. And again, once a motor vehicle is turning right, they kind of tee up perpendicular to the crosswalk, and that helps. Again, with sight lines and reducing crashes due to more time for everyone to react. Finally, if the intersection does require accommodation of large trucks, and we can't keep the main corner radius tight to reduce turning speeds, we will also provide a truck apron, and that helps reduce turning speeds of small cars, but still allow large trucks to be accommodated. Next slide. Sorry, next slide. I think I have backwards. Okay, yeah, thank you. So from an accessibility standpoint, we did a lot of testing before we developed the protected intersection design guide, including people in various mobility needs and wheelchairs, and also with the people with vision loss or blind. Next slide. To that degree, to that end, we added a lot of accessibility features. So there's, as mentioned, there's the accessible pedestrian signal push button with auditory cues, and that's located on the pedestrian refuge, so people can hear what that is and cross at an appropriate point. There's also a lot of tactile walking surface indicators. Attention twizzies are required to warn of a hazard, either the cycling facility or the road, and that's a provincial requirement. But we also added directional twizzies, which are a different type of twizzy with a different pattern that identifies where the crossings are and what angle the crossing is angled at. Finally, between the cycle track and sidewalk, and rather than using those tactile pavers I highlighted earlier, we changed to a half-height curb, which we found was more consistently accessible, or consistently detectable. Next slide. Finally, I heard that there was some interest in right turn channels, so I added this slide as well. We do still allow right turn channels at protected intersections in very specific cases. So either at skewed corners, where an intersection might be at an angle, and if we were to allow a truck to turn at a normal, kind of in a normal way, it would eat up a lot of space in the corner. So we might provide a smart channel in that situation. The other situation where we provide a smart channel is where a fully protected green arrow right turn movement wouldn't achieve the target auto level of service, and pedestrian and cycling level of service is also achieved. So that's important. We don't want to, even if that wasn't, if we weren't able to achieve the auto level of service, we want to make sure the pedestrian and cycling level of service is achieved first. And finally, that there's actually a high right turn volume, so greater than 300 for unidirectional cycling. Finally, if you use a smart channel, typical practice, and it depends on a few other things, but typical practice would be race crossings and or truck aprons would be applied as well to reduce vehicle speeds. And we intersect the intersecting road with a 70-degree angle rather than a large swooping kind of right turn channel. Next slide. Next slide. This isn't that important. For winter, of course, we considered it. Next slide. And so results after the predicted intersection design guide are our designs improved dramatically. This one, next slide. We had really high right turn volumes. So we separated right turning traffic with different signal phasing from the bicycle movement as well. So sometimes geometry changes aren't enough and you have to look at the signal phasing. Next slide. Here's our first implementation of the improved accessibility measures with the directional Twizzies at Longfields and Highbury Park in Barrhaven. Next slide. Scott and Bayview is a good example of an upgrade of an existing facility where we maintained the right turn channel because those two streets did intersect at an angle. And so it was able to maintain a truck route status and a transit route. We had to retain that right turn channel. Next slide. Here's a large suburban arterial, and that's just an example of we include cycle tracks and sidewalks in protected intersections from the start nowadays. Next slide. And just results of all this, like it's you know, it's worth it in a lot of ways in terms of safety. So just a 10 intersection sample, it still needs to be verified, and it's not like fully published yet, but we've experienced some impressive, in my opinion, drops in collisions. So 37% reduction in that 10 intersection sample of before versus after collision stats of a protected intersection implementation, 25% reduction in cycling collisions, and 75% reduction in pedestrian collisions. Still verifying some of that data, so you know, we'll have some work to do to make sure our sample size is as high as it could be, but preliminary results are positive. Next slide. And there's a feedback loop, of course, so we actually have standard construction details now that we could share if you like. Also, I was an advisor on the Ontario Traffic Council's protected intersection guide, so if you want to refer to a different guide that's not City of Ottawa specific, the Ontario Traffic Council has its own guide as well. Next slide. Lastly, I should be remiss without mentioning challenges that still remain with these intersections. For standalone cycling projects, if you weren't to add cycling facilities at all, of course, protected intersections are a little bit more costly. And they can result in some right-of-way, like property impacts in projects with constrained right-of-ways. This is, you know, maybe more of a long-term thing, but over time, if you don't build the cycling corners large enough, you can have limits on the number of cyclists that can fit in them. And there's some limits on their feasibility where protected signal phasing is required, really high turn volumes, and you're not able to fit the queue storage for those turn lanes. Next slide, I think that's it. So thanks for bearing with me. I know that was a bit of a long presentation, but again, I appreciate being invited.
Great. Thanks, Emmett. Do we have any questions, comments on the presentation? Councillor Miller.
I know this is going to be a priority issue, but I just wanted to start by thanking Ms. Bingley for speaking with us tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to come, and also thank you to Emmett for the presentation. It's a lot of food for thought, and I'm sure we'll have a very healthy discussion here this evening.
Councillor McKenna?
No, I'm fine. Good.
I've got a question for you, Emmett, on the City of Ottawa seems to be getting rid of the free-flowing channelized right turns. What's the criteria, or when you put a smart channel in for vehicular traffic, how many of those would go in out of the protected intersections, or what criteria would it take to get one of those installed in Ottawa today?
Sorry, so for a free floating right turn channel or for a smart channel, as shown on that on the slides.
Would the city of Ottawa install a free-flowing right-hand turn channel, or are they all smart channels today?
There's some that are pretty close to sort of a hybrid of a smart channel and a free-flowing right turn channel that were done in unique circumstances. For example, Highway 174 and Montreal Road, where we were just extending our LRT in the east. There was an interchange reconstruction, and there was a very high volume coming off of that the highway going on to Montreal Road and then moving on to an industrial park. We didn't want to have everyone merge into traffic on Montreal Road, so there was an add lane, it's called, like, you know, a lane that gets added at the intersection. So that is as close to a free flow as we get, where we do add an additional lane, so the cars in that right turn channel aren't merging into through traffic, I'll say. But we still had that right turn channel look more like a smart channel. It still kind of had a tight radius corner where it turned into the add lane. I mean, you can have a look at it if you'd like. And we still included a raised crossing and truck apron. So even if we need to accommodate a really high volume of churning traffic and truck traffic, we still design in a way that the churning vehicles are moving as slowly as possible.
Cool. Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, thanks, Emmett. And, you know, as everyone here has driven in Ottawa, you've got your hands full with the traffic in Ottawa. I'm just wondering if you specifically looked at the intersection we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. You know, I've visited Smiths Falls a few times and driven through that intersection as well on my way through. So I'm familiar with what it looks like today. I'm not sure what the proposal is for Beckwith bridge reconstruction. So I'm not entirely familiar with the context or the volumes of churning traffic involved, but I'm familiar with it.
Thanks.
So yeah, no, I thought it was really interesting in the Ottawa guide that for the right-hand turn smart channels, it's 300 vehicles per peak hour. For that's the kind of volume you need to justify these, because I don't know that we get that here. But I guess, and the other thing that was really interesting was when you take a look at the Ontario Traffic Council's protected intersection design guide that Emmett worked on, Beckwith Street, Smith Falls is the second example. So I was happy to see that. I thank you for the inclusion of that. But with that, I don't see any other questions for you, Emmett. We'll go back to Chair Bingley, who's got the motion from the Accessibility Advisory Committee that she will read to sum up the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our motion reads as follows. Whereas Council recognizes the importance of improving pedestrian safety, accessibility, and active transportation opportunities at the Beckwith Street and Lombard Street intersection and adjacent access points into Victoria Park, be it resolved that the detailed design study proceed, prioritizing pedestrian safety, accessibility for persons of all abilities, active transportation connectivity, traffic operations and vehicle safety, opportunities to improve access to Victoria Park, and applicable provincial engineering standards and accepted transportation engineering best practices. Be it further resolved that the Smiths Falls Accessibility Advisory Committee be consulted during the development of the preferred design. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions and comments for Lucy? Not seeing any hands up, so that'll wrap up our delegation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Bingley, and thanks to Emmett.
Thank you.
With that, CEO Director's reports.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have two this evening, starting with Director McMahon.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, members of council. I just wanted to give a quick update on the Timber Bridge, notably the decorative lighting package. So over the last month or so, the contractor and their subcontractors have been working on the decorative lighting package. To date, it's been installed, tested, and commissioned just recently as of last week. The decorative lighting package is an RGB system, so red, green, blue. So that's what gives you basically all the colors in the rainbow, if you will. So, which will accommodate the bridge to be lit in a variety of color variants to accommodate seasonal holiday themes and community requests. Staff are working on an amendment to the federal basic impact assessment through Parks Canada for the decorative lighting addition. So through that process, there will be timing restrictions associated with spring and fall migration of birds. For instance, during spring migration, March 1st through March 30th, decorative lights are to be programmed to be turned off 2 hours after sunset on a daily basis until that bird migration season is over in the spring, and then there's another bird migration season in the fall. So for the most part, we'll have restrictions on the decorative lighting package being on from dusk through till about 11 p.m. and then we'll have to turn them off. So that's all been worked into the themes that we've implemented into the programming unit. Yes, so we can't implement any of those themes until we have the BIA amendment completed with Parks Canada. Happy to take any questions if there are any.
Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Director. And this might be more of the clerk than you, but we already have a sign lighting, a lighting policy. Do we have to adapt it to accommodate this, or it's just another?
No, it's actually, we have that on the agenda for July 13th because we do have to add the Confederation Bridge. It wasn't added.
Great, thank you.
Any other question, Mayor Panko?
So we have to wait until we have, I guess, further approval from Parks Canada before we can actually use the lights, or the lights are on now, but we can't change the colors, or help me understand exactly what we're waiting for, or what status we're at right now.
Yeah, so currently right now we have the, as has been on for the last while, is the handrail lighting. That's for safety. So the federal basic impact assessment doesn't speak to that. That's a safety feature for the bridge. So we're good that way. So it's the balance of the the lighting that's associated with the decorative lighting package that we have to wait until we get approval from Parks Canada.
Okay.
So that amendment is in the works, and I would suggest hopefully in the next couple of weeks we have that off to Parks Canada and they can turn that around fairly quick. So
okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, comments, so thank you, Director McMahon.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir Morris.
Next up, we have Director Clark.
Evening, everyone. Hard to believe, but July 1st is on Wednesday, so I just wanted to send a quick invitation to all of you to join us at Lower Reach for Canada Day in the morning. So a couple first things. So you can start your day with a by donation pancake breakfast starting at 9:30 down at Lower Reach. Those of you who will be flipping pancakes with me, be there a little bit earlier if you could, around 9:15. We are working together with the table to pull this off. So the table will be orchestrating all of the food service or food creation, and we'll just be providing some assistance for the service. Following the pancake breakfast, we have a bike parade at 11. I'm sure you're welcome to join, but it's mostly for young people. So while you're all young around this table, I think we're talking about kids. So everybody, we're hoping that they decorate their bikes and come on down. Live entertainment starts shortly thereafter. Family Fun Zone is happening. There's a vendor market. There's food and drinks available, and the Kinsman Beer Garden is open as well. Canada Day Idol is happening down at Lower Reach at 1:30, and that is being supported by the Station Theatre. And live music is starting at 6 at the park. So we're hoping for a spectacular spectacular fireworks display and no rain, which will start at 9:30. So we're very much looking forward to you being there. If anyone's interested, it's all ages for the Canada Day Idol. You can register, and I expect all of you around this horse show will as well, before 4 p.m. tomorrow. And if you're not interested, I'm sure, Councillor Robinson, you have already signed up, I'm sure. We'll see you there. You can register at smithsfalls.ca/idol. So happy Canada Day, everyone.
Great, thank you. Questions, comments? I've got a question on the breakfast.
Yes.
Can you ensure that it's Canadian maple syrup being served, or
I
do
will.
we need to pass a motion for that?
You can pass as many motions as you like. That's what council's good at. I will pass that along to the table, and hopefully they have already taken that into consideration.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, comments, thank you for your report. We'll move to our 9.1, which has been amended to the Accessibility Advisory Committee's request regarding the Beckwith Street Bridge Rehabilitation Project. So the motion that was passed last Friday was asking that a detailed design study proceed. That motion was founded in the updated engineering report, which we received, although since it hasn't been, there's no report for this tonight and the updated engineering report hasn't been posted. I'm just going to read a section. With the stamp came a disclaimer at the beginning of the report that said the main recommendation of the study was that a detailed study should be completed to confirm which option is the preferred and should be carried forward. The detailed study should include updated peak season summer traffic counts and include pedestrian crossings, a review of multiple options, including smart channels, and normalization of the intersection, as well as existing conditions. The purpose of this letter is to confirm the recommendation, reiterate that a detailed study is needed to confirm the best option for the intersection of Beckwith Street and Lombard Street in Smith Falls. The previous study should not be considered in isolation and does not constitute design advice. So taking off that, the Accessibility Committee saying, yes, let's move forward with the detailed design process and incorporate a better design than replacing the existing.
Kick things off.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. It's been about 2 weeks or 3 weeks since we've had this discussion, and I guess at the time, I was probably accepting of what has been proposed by staff, but since that time, having a chance to go to the intersection and take it with members of the Accessibility Advisory Committee and have a chance to review it more deeply and looking at it through a different lens. And I think even tonight's experience helped create a bit of a different understanding. And the one that really caught me was Emmett's comment that protective features must be provided with redesigned or new intersections in Ottawa. Simply policy, which makes all the sense in the world. And I guess when given a choice, we should make the choice that best, like really secures the safety of all participants at an intersection, and primarily prioritizing pedestrians, cyclists, especially people with mobility needs or using mobility devices. And we're only going to do this once, so I think it's important that this is going to sort of look after our community's needs for probably the next 50 years before it's ever redesigned again and redone again. And then I guess the last comment that Emmett made, or near the end, he said it's not yet fully validated, but a 37% reduction overall collisions, but 25% reduction in cyclist collisions and a 75% reduction in pedestrian collisions with these new designs. And so I think that speaks volumes that if we're going to do something, let's do it the safest way possibly can. And I guess if that means removal of the right turn lane, the right channel lane off of Beckwith onto Lombard, then that's a direction I think we should take. I know I don't want to delay the project, but we're doing something that's going to serve our community for an awful long time. And the comments from the Accessibility Advisory Committee were powerful. When it's not, the length of the crossing makes it very difficult to get across, almost impossible to get across without being at risk. And the current design does create challenges that I know there could be a PXO put with if the right channel was preserved. But I think that's an adaptation that gives me concerns that all it takes is one person not paying attention to that, or not one person going too fast through there. That way, when we've got an incident that we do not want to see. So that concludes my comments, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. So I've lived in 2 different houses on that side of town, and I've been a pedestrian at that intersection many times. And while I'm physically able to cross the street at, a decent pace, it's tricky. It's a blind intersection. People come whipping down Beckwith Street to turn right. I'm very concerned about the safety of that intersection, and I'd rather see us put a pause on that piece of the project than to do it and not address the accessibility. Ms. Bingley talked about caution lights, extended time, visual and audio alerts. All of those make sense. And the accessibility committee's motion makes a lot of sense to me as well. So I do support making those amendments and to this project.
Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, I mean, you did a great job, Lucy. I'm hoping I can hear from Director McMunn in terms of what this decision, if taken, means. I appreciate the presentation from the City of Ottawa. Not the same. I mean, we're talking about Nicholas and Laurier. Like, that is not Nicholas and Laurier, okay? And it's not the same, and it's a tight corner. And I think that from what I've heard from Director McMunn and the design engineers that for the bridge, that I think that the accessibility committee's comments can be accommodated, and I look to Director McMunn to perhaps comment on that. But I can't see trucks getting around that corner, for one thing, and as I've been told in discussions that we've had before, that corner can be made safer, and it was, I was satisfied with that conclusion. So my 2 questions are, can the corner be made safer? Can you confirm that? And then my second question is, what's the cost of delaying this project, which is already paid for with a $6 million grant? So if you don't mind, Director, shedding some light on that.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Brennan. So the short answer with respect to the delegation here this evening, so with AODA, there's integrated accessibility standards regulation that we have to comply with. So all of the traffic signalization, pedestrian crossing infrastructure will be compliant with audible and visual cues for those that need it crossing the intersection. Good point that, and I picked up on that too from the presentation. I certainly appreciate the presentation here this evening as part of the delegation. One thing to keep in mind, this is not an outlaw intersection. We're limited with the amount of right-of-way room that we have to work within. I'm not saying that's 100% of an impedance to do work there, but the reality is it is tight, and we're coming off a bridge immediately, then we're right into that current right channelization lane. There was a comment or recommendation from the Accessibility Advisory Committee as well to improve access into Victoria Park. That's a huge challenge. We're trying to suggest that be incorporated into this bridge rehabilitation work that we're doing crossing the Rideau Canal, as well as the improvements that we're looking to do into the intersection. I would wager an opinion that trying to make improvements to access to Victoria Park ought to be hived off, if you will, and looked at for future years for improvements to get into the park. I see it as kind of somewhat, it certainly is outside of the scope of what TSI was originally tasked with for this assignment, and outside of the scope in terms of our current funding agreement that we have with the province through the Connecting Link program. Picked up on a comment that you mentioned there, Councillor Miller, with respect to, maybe we stick a pin in this or hit pause. I'm wondering if that's suggesting that we do hit pause and we go back to a full-on redesign of the intersection, whether or not it's even feasible or not. But if that's something that council wants to look at and consider, I would just be cognizant of the fact that that would have an effect on our funding. We do have a window of time that we need to get, the proverbial shovels in the ground this summer to get rolling on this project. And then we're going to be working at it throughout 2027 as well, based on the scope. So there's that. So there is risk of compromising that funding arrangement with MTO on this project. Lastly, I want to mention that did take cues from council last time we talked about this, when we had Ramin and Tom here, Ramin being from TSI and Tom being from Elements Engineering. So there was a discussion on the narrative on what I took from it was to look at the channelization lane kind of in isolation and not be looking at the broader intersection to make any traffic movement changes within the intersection. Again, we're limited by the amount of room that we physically have in the intersection. We have made some subtle edits, if you will, notably on the Jasper Street side approach, where we marginally widened out the lanes a little bit, more so for the west approach because it is tight through there. So I do have pricing here from Elements Engineering to do an analysis, if you will, of the northwest quadrant or the channelization lane to see if there's options to make any changes from what we currently have there. And we're looking at around 25,000 to do so. 24.9 to be exact, plus HST. So
through the chair, so what would the timing of that be? How would that affect the overall project?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, and through the chair. So right now we're poised to get this tender out fairly soon. We did kind of amend our tender documents to make the intersection work a provisional item, meaning should we need to pull it out for whatever reason, we can do so without having implications to the costing of the contract with whoever the general contractor is. So we put those provisions in the contract. We do have items for much of the work that we're doing within the intersection. So if there's changes, we could administer that through site instructions or through change orders in the contract, meaning we have items listed in the contract that will be bid for curb, for sidewalk, for asphalt, TWSIs, those tactile walking surface indicators, that kind of thing. But I just want to circle back around to, if it is the intent of council that we solely look at the northwest quadrant, which this proposal from Elements Engineering that I have in front of me, that's what it's kind of drilling down on, or is there an appetite to not solely look at that one particular quadrant, or to look at the broader intersection? So I'd be looking for direction from council for that here this evening.
So I'll go in to give the accessibility committee's perspective on that, and their perspective is that the whole intersection needs to be accessible, and the whole intersection needs to be looked at because there's problematic aspects of all corners of it. For example, this is the widest intersection we have in town. It's 38 meters at the widest crossing point to get across the street. To put that into perspective, 38 meters here, it's 10 to 12 meters at every crossing on the rest of Beckwith Street to get across the street. And as we heard of Emmett, that's a big driver of why there's 75% less collisions between pedestrians and vehicles at intersections that have been designed with these techniques. Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, I was going to ask the director through the chair, and I'm comfortable with the recommendations that originally came, and I think I got a professional opinion. I know it was a high level opinion that any study done on that quadrant would result in the same recommendation, which would be to keep the lane. It would be safer. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, through the chair. That's a bit of a tough answer to address. I simply have my intuition telling me, my sneaking suspicions, that we could result in the recommendation to not change anything. That would be that'd be something that would be looked at. Now, there would be data that would be gathered to speak to whether or not it could or couldn't. So I can't say for any certainty one way or the other. We would have to do the analysis. Council would have to give consideration to, if it would be looked at in terms of prioritizing vehicles. It would be looked at prioritizing pedestrians and cyclists, and then it would be looked at prioritizing a bit of a mix of all three of those users of the intersection.
Okay, one more. This is it. So I'm going to support getting a tender out, getting this work started, and I would put a caveat on that when we are looking at that turn lane, that we involve the accessibility committee and Lucy, because I heard her talking about voice recognition. We talked about a PXO. We talked about speed bump, that type of thing. So hopefully they stay in the loop. That would be my preference, and that's what I would support, that we get going on this and make sure the accessibility committee is involved. That's it.
Councillor McKenna, then Councillor Robinson.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm assuming that when we do the intersections, we planned a whole intersection, like resurface and sidewalks and new lights, that we're making it ODA compliant because you have to. And what I thought the focus now was on that channel turning lane and its risk factor. And so the committee's been out there and they're coming back and saying, even with, so we can make it ODA compliant, but it's still, what I'm hearing from the committee, it's still a high risk for them, for anybody to get across there unless we do something. So I wasn't talking about a redesign because it's already been redesigned. And we're going to make it ODA compliant. We're adding new lights that will be sensitive to people, anybody using them. But it's that channel lane. So the focus for 25,000, you're suggesting we could take a look at that piece and take into account the committee's recommendations and do that simultaneously while we go ahead and tender, put it out, and then we would get a report back on how we can improve that and maybe remove it, maybe not, but how do we not, because you've already offered some improvements, but the committee's telling us that's not enough. They're saying it's still, with those changes, we still need more. So that's the focus of my attention, is that channel turn there. Assuming that the rest of the intersection is going to be ODA compliant. Okay.
Thanks,
Mr. Chair. I agree with most of what Councillor McKenna said, and Councillor Brennan. And you know, I do respect the concerns by the Accessibility Committee, and but I thought that in our last talk about this, when you made the comment about the speed humps, they would be in the turning lane to slow traffic down. And if you put enough of them starting early enough, it definitely will slow them down. And then moving the crosswalk closer to the corner and putting in the PXO. We've already got a flashing light there to say it's a hidden pedestrian crossing anyway. But is there any chance that you can extend the time on the lights to make it go? Because if that can be done, I think that that's an appropriate balance of addressing safety and staying within the intended scope of the project. So can you do that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Robinson, and through the chair. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to speak to that, like any intersection, if there's challenges with the amount of time that pedestrians are given priority to cross via the change in the pedestrian crossing heads, that's an easy change in the traffic controller to give more time. So that's something that we could certainly do, being cognizant of the amount of time it takes for anybody really to get across the intersection. We can certainly work with those on the Accessibility Advisory Committee, run some tests, if you will, to determine how long it does in fact take somebody that's using an assistive device to get across. But that's an easy change in the controller to give additional time.
Councillor Seal Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul, could you expand and clarify the quotation you have? There are two parts to it. I think council should be aware of both parts.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there is, the total, through the chair, the total quote was $47,220. But out of that, a detailed design would be $22,320 of that full amount. So if I back that out, it would be $24,900 to do the investigative portion of this contemplated assignment.
Seal Morris.
So just to be clear, they'll do the analysis, and if it's a go, they'll do the design. So the total package is $47,000.
Councillor Robinson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Where's the money coming from to do that?
That's a great question. This would be over and above our contracted arrangement with TSI, so it would be a change order, if you will.
So just a quick follow-up. So it's another out-of-budget expense that we're going to have to...
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Quinn.
Thank you. I have driven that intersection, well, for years, we all have, but I've really been taking note as I go along. One of the things that I see that is wrong with the turning the lane onto from Beckwith onto Lombard is there's too many trees there. There really are. You can't see. So that's one of the things that's going to be addressed. And I think that's very important. The other thing is, yes, we need to make sure that it's safe for people to get across, but I'm driving down Beckwith Street and I'm going to go to Lombard, but I went straight through and made the right-hand turn. I didn't take the lane to merge. And I'm thinking, okay, I just drive a little Jeep. It's not very big. If I was driving a tractor trailer, I would have quite a time turning there. So if you're going to eliminate that merged lane, you're going to have to make that part of the intersection or that turning lane much bigger. You don't have any space to go there to make it much bigger unless we do something drastic like buy the Rockland House and the house beside it and tear them down so the whole thing can be made bigger, and we're not going to do that. So I think what you're talking about right now, I really like. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get started on this, and we're going to watch as we go along and make sure that we're doing things properly. And the other thing, and this happened to me today, I was out at Walmart and I was coming back downtown. So I'm heading east, there's a truck heading west. There was a bicycle on the sidewalk heading west. All of a sudden he pulled out right in front of that truck. The truck slammed on his brakes, moved over. I slammed on my brakes and moved over, or that guy could have been hit. So this has to be everybody being careful. You can't just say, we're going to fix this street and everybody's going to be safe. It means everyone has to watch. And we have to have room for tractor trailers. That's a highway. They're going down there. We have to have that. But we can do this. We can do this. I'm very confident in all the studies that you're doing and the companies you're working with, that we can do this, leave that lane there, and make it safe for everyone. Thank you.
We got Councillor McKenna, then Mayor Penko.
Just to say that $47,000 doesn't intimidate me. If this is a 50-year project, it's $1,000 a year to get it right, and we want to get it right. We only have this one chance. And listening to the Accessibility Committee's recommendation and the other information I have, I'm comfortable with their going ahead and doing that, investing that money and getting this intersection properly done and come back and it's that feasibility. Let's see if we can go beyond the minimum and really make it a very safe and accessible for everyone, not just vehicles. So,
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was going to say there's really three options in front of us. I would say one, the recommendation from the staff, I think it's 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, to spend the 24.9 to take a deeper dive into safety with prioritizing, I would say, pedestrians, cyclists, people with mobility devices, and vehicles, with vehicles being last in that 4. I think certainly other people first. I mean, I think we often forget that 1 in 5 of our citizens does not have access to a vehicle. They walk around town, they ride a bike, they use a mobility device. So it's a high percentage of people, and that being the main crossing from one section of town to the other. I mean, it's a very high traffic area. And the ability to put a PXO there in the right turn channelization or a couple of speed humps to slow people down is an adaptation to try and make something safer when a redesign probably creates the best safety features and best outcome possible. So I would say the third option would be if we simply agreed that removing that made it safer, we skip the 24.9, just do the redesign, and we would end up getting that outcome. But I think I'll support Councillor McKenna's position that let's do the work. Let's have the deeper dive into safety completed, and then have it come back to council for a decision. And I respect that does delay the project somewhat, but I'm not mistaken, under the Connecting Link funding, we do have until late 2028 to get the project done. So I think we're from a timing standpoint, we have to delay a month or two to get the work done ultimately. Or we create an environment which fulfills the expectations and needs of not just the Accessibility Advisory Committee, but everybody in our community who would cross that on anything other than a vehicle. So I think that'd be my preference. I'll support Councillor McKenna's recommendation.
Director McMahon, did you have a?
Yeah, I was just picking up on a comment you mentioned there, Your Worship. So I would caution against ripping the proverbial Band-Aid off and going right to a redesign of that northwest quadrant, simply for the fact that we haven't done the full-on analysis yet to see if it's even feasible. So staff's recommendation would be, if this is council's wish to proceed, would be to do the analysis through Elements Engineering. Staff will come back with those findings and recommendations out of that study, and then council can, if it's feasible, then council at that point can make the determination whether or not we want to go to the full redesign at that stage. But I'll just end in saying it's staff's intent to issue the tender for this project, understanding that we've got a Part A, which is the rehabilitation work on the 2 bridges, and Part B being the intersection work. We don't anticipate there being any work in the intersection in 2026. We believe the focus will be on the bridge work, get started on that, and then in 2027, the work in the intersection will take place. So all that to say, we've got some time, and I believe we can administer any changes that may come as a result of this investigative work that we're going to do can be administered through change orders and or site instructions, given the fact we have items in the contract for much of the work that we're going to be doing.
I'm going to weigh in, C.O. Morris.
Just a question of clarification. Is it March of 28 the project needs to be complete?
Yep.
Since everybody's had a chance to comment, I'm going to share some comments and then we'll keep going around. I really appreciated the delegation tonight coming. I think it's important to note that in the city of Ottawa, there's 1,176 controlled intersections. And what we heard from Emmett tonight is out of 1,176, there was one example where they had to keep the channelized right-hand turn lane because it wasn't feasible to have a safer solution. So I'm very confident that if we do the work and we do the design study, that we're going to get a better result out of it. And I think we've got an obligation to do the work because our strategic plan has transportation networks as a priority. Initiative 4 is to identify gaps for improved and increased pedestrian activity, including people with limited mobility. And the goal for that strategic priority is to enable improved mobility by examining existing transportation networks, both within the town and beyond, in a way that supports employment and accessibility. So that's the mandate we started this term with. And I think on a budget of $6-7 million project, $50,000 it's within the it's within the overruns, or I think it can easily be budgeted into it. I think when we look at the accessible design principles and we look at health and safety principles, they both share the same starting point, and that it's better to remove the hazard, it's better to remove the barrier than it is to engineer around the barrier. And as much as we can throw more lights, we've had 2 lights there for as long as I can remember, and they've been ineffective. We can put speed humps in, but at the point, if we need to make the cars come to a crawl to go through that corner anyway, when do we get to the point where it would have just been simpler to design the intersection the way we've designed every other intersection on Beckwith Street? The other problem with the lighting is that the safe stopping distance for 40 kilometers an hour, which is a pretty common speed that intersection's traveled in that right-hand turn lane, is 45 meters. And the engineered report shows a 36-meter sight line. When the accessibility committee visited the site, they didn't share Councillor Quinn's views that the vegetation was limiting it. They felt that it was well trimmed back and that vegetation has already been removed. But they did note that the new railing is going to be approximately 40 centimeters higher than the old railing. And that as you come around the corner, with the way the slats are oriented, it's very difficult to see through. If you're walking down the bridge and you're looking perpendicular, it's easy, but when you're coming in a car around the corner, so you're losing 40 centimeters of height of visibility around that corner. And even if there's a light there, it would be difficult to see. When we come to the City of Ottawa's time for what kind of volumes they need to justify one of these, it's 300 right turning cars in the peak hour. 300 cars per hour. I don't know how many streets in Smith Falls would have 300 cars per hour at a peak time, but my guess is that we don't have any. And when we speculate on how trucks turn corners, the angle that they need to justify this design, similar to what we did up by the library, is 80 degrees. The intersection we're talking about is 120 degrees. The corner we're talking about is 120 degrees. So it's not even in the ballpark of something that would be close enough to require that kind of modification. So I'd like to know if the existing stair from Beckwith Street into the park is part of this rehabilitation, or if that's staying as it is. If that set of stairs is part of the rehabilitation, the accessibility committee would like to see it turned into a ramp. Because it's adjacent to the old block, there's a nice run, there's lots of space, and by putting a ramp there, all users can use it instead of just the stairs now where they have to go around. I agree, if it can't be done as part of this project of making the Victoria Park corner access better, it's definitely should be something that's on our radar. But we've got one chance to get this right. It's not a big cost, and I'm fully supportive of it. Councillor Miller.
And so I support the way Councillor McKenna wrapped it up nicely as well. So I think you've got the majority supporting you around the horseshoe. And I thank Director McMunn for coming with a workable solution that helps us make sure we do this project right. So thank you very much.
Thanks for hearing consensus. I've got one, CO Morris.
So the only vagary is the ramp. So we need to know if that's part of the scope of work. So we're looking for direction.
Is the ramp included in the scope of work of the bridge rehabilitation?
It's not in the quote we received.
But are the stairs being worked on as part of the bridge rehabilitation?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% certain if they're being rehabilitated, or I don't believe they're being removed, but I can get back to council on that. Yeah.
My preference would be, if we're doing work on the stairs, it's the right time to it's better to invest in a ramp than invest in a new pair of stairs. Is there a consensus for that? Councillor McKenna?
Well, if it's within the scope.
Yeah.
I know we're future-proofed when you were designing it, to say if we change this in the future, where would a ramp go?
So perhaps I would suggest that we'll check the scope and see if it is, and we'll let you know by email the answer to that question.
And I've just got one question on the, with the Elements Engineering, is that something that we traditionally get a second or third quote on for cost effectiveness, or?
I think in this case, it would be an extension of the assignment that already exists. Now, for clarity, we don't have a direct relationship, correct me if I'm wrong, with Elements. We have a contract with TSI, and they subbed out the traffic investigation. So we don't have a relationship with Elements other than as a subcontract.
Would it be an excessive amount of work to get a second or third quote, just to know that we're getting value for money?
We could. It's going to. Elements they understand the dynamics of the intersection already. So a new consultant would have to learn all of that, which would come at a cost. But if it would satisfy committee, we could do that. I wouldn't predict a great deal of savings. They're simply going to have to spend more time understanding the intersection where Elements Engineering already do.
Seeing Councillor McKenna nodding her
just trying to keep things moving forward and getting 3 more quotes. I don't have any issue with the company we're dealing with, and as long as they'll look at the report from the accessibility committee when they're doing that, then I'm happy to go. As I said, 47,000 spread out over, or 22 over a 50-year, 60-year return on that investment. I'm fine with that.
So, and I guess just to clarify, do we have confirmation that this firm has experience in both conventional street design and protected intersection design, or is their experience primarily in conventional design?
No, they are a well-respected engineering firm, subconsultant to TSI for traffic. That's the word I'm looking for. Like for design of signalized intersections, right? They're all professional engineers. I don't have any concerns with their ability to do this assignment. They weren't simply tasked necessarily out of the gate for this project for looking at the removal of the channelization lane. From the onset of this project, it was a rehabilitation of the 2 bridges, plus traffic signalization upgrades to Lombard-Beckwith intersection. So fully within their scope. Got a 10-page memorandum here with all the costing and everything. I'm confident that they definitely have the ability to do this assignment.
I'm seeing nodding heads. Councillor Robinson?
Just one quick question, Director. If we go ahead and make these changes, does that affect the Connecting Links grant that we got?
We'll have to look into that a little deeper, but I wouldn't think. I guess it all depends on what we're looking at. If we were just hypothetically, if we were looking at a redesign of the intersection, then most definitely. But if we're simply looking at amendments to the channelization lane, then I'll have that conversation with MTO. I don't suspect it will, but I'll confirm that as well.
All right, I'm seeing we've got a clear consensus then to move forward. Thank you, Director McMunn. We've got a busy night, so we'll move to Old Water Tower report for our next one.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the report I have in front of you this evening is report 2026-087. The context is the old water tower over in Centennial Park. So this report responds to Council's previous direction to gather information on the feasibility and costs of retaining the old water tower as a community landmark rather than proceeding directly to demolition. The tower is approximately 102 years old and has been decommissioned, and previous engineering inspections identified significant deterioration, corrosion, metal loss at connections, and ongoing structural degradation. The structure has also exceeded the typical service life for a water tower. So staff are recommending a staged approach in how we address the feasibility of whether or not the water tower can stay or should it go. Rather than undertaking an expensive full structural assessment immediately, council would direct staff to issue an RFP for a limited scope structural feasibility review. This initial review would examine existing reports created by Landmark from quite a number of years where they've been doing structural assessments of the tower when it was in service. It would include a site inspection. They would assess major structural and building code considerations and determine whether there is a realistic path for a professional engineer to certify the structure for continued retention. The outcome of that investigation would be a clear go, no-go scenario. Cost estimates received from three different engineering and consulting firms that I reached out to range from approximately $5,000 to $10,000 for a screen level review, up to $300,000 for a full condition assessment and detailed structural analysis. Given the significant difference, staff believe it is prudent to start with the lower cost feasibility review before considering any further investment. So as I mentioned before, that initial feasibility review would be a hard yes, we can go to the next stage, or it's a hard no, we got to stop here and we got to consider demolition. So the recommendation before council is to authorize staff to develop a scope of work and issue a procurement process for the feasibility review, and then return to council with the results before any decision is made regarding a detailed assessment or demolition of the tower. Again, it's that go, no-go scenario. The anticipated cost of the review is somewhere between $5,000 and $15,000, which could be funded from capital water reserves. So the key message to take away from my my report here this evening is this recommendation does not commit the town to retaining the tower or to a costly detailed assessment. It simply provides council with the information needed to make an informed decision on whether the structure has a viable future as a landmark. So with that, I'm happy to quit speaking and take any questions.
Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, so this was on, there was another report I briefly read, but it's not part of tonight. And from what I understood, Landmark, in their opinion today, in Landmark's opinion today, there's no way that you would find a structural engineer to put a stamped report confirming the feasibility of keeping the water tower. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So, and I've read the form, I don't know, it was 3 weeks or a month ago or something when we had the full report with pictures and all the rest of it. And I'm like, is there a way to keep it? But my opinion has evolved, and I just cannot see from a common sense point of view how we're going to keep that and how much it's going to cost. Was it going to keep it for another 20 years? And it's going to be 120 years old, and then we're going to keep putting the money into it. I think now's the time. I'm prepared. I mean, it's $5,000 to $15,000. I can bet the farm that when we do it, we're going to get the confirmation that you cannot keep that water tower without spending significant amounts of money on it. So I'm prepared to let it go now. If my colleagues feel that it's worth $5,000 to $15,000 to find out, I'm fine with that as well. But I would bet the farm that tower is coming down. So,
Councillor Robinson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. one of the key things that this consulting thing would do would be determine whether a professional engineer could reasonably certify or stamp the structure for continued use for this go, no go recommendation. Based on the information that we have today, I believe that it's likely going to be no go. And I don't think we should proceed with hiring a consultant to give us an answer that we already, it's just going to confirm simply what we already suspect. And I agree with Councillor Brennan. You know, it's time. And yes, it's a landmark. We also have a new landmark over there, and in the bridge, and it, you know, that will still be standing for quite a while. And I think that the responsible course of action for us is to move forward with demolition rather than spending additional funds. So I'm not in favor of hiring the consultant.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. So I do support your recommendation, but Councillor Brennan brought up a great point. I think we know Landmark has their opinion solidified. So those other engineering firms that you talked about, I would like a second opinion. I also don't really, I'm not fooling myself into thinking we're going to keep it for another 20 years, but we're not doing anything with that property quite yet. I know we're hoping to, but probably it's going to be 5 years before something happens. So, you know, I don't think we need to look at keeping water in it. We're certainly not going to use it. What would it cost to keep it going for 5 years, repaint it, and then when development is ready to put a shovel in the ground, that's when I think it's time to probably call it quits. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Not seeing hands, so Councillor.
Well, I'm ready. The old girl doesn't owe us anything. It's time to pull the plug and let her go. She served us for 102 years, and it's time to say adios. I don't want to spend $15,000, as Councillor Robinson says, telling us what the eventual outcomes are going to be. So I'm ready to, I'd rather see bids on demolition costs.
Councillor Quinn.
Thank you. I'm on that page. I believe that the tower has served us well. It's old, it's tired, and we have a beautiful new tower. And you know what? We also have a gorgeous bridge down there in that park. So I think we need to be saying, okay, it's time for the tower to go, and we're going to get really working on the park and see what we can develop down there so that this park turns into something special where people want to come and stay and enjoy what we do have. And so I'm on the opinion that it's time to let the poor thing die.
I think it's this disappointing evolution. When it came to council in the past, we were expecting $60,000 for the feasibility. Now it's down to $5,000. So it's not a big investment for a 102-year-old structure that's a contributing property in our Heritage Conservation District. We're looking at a $400,000 price tag to bring it down. We're not looking at $20,000, $50,000, like we're significant investment to take it down. And I think to not look into it, I don't know what engineering experience Councillor Brennan and Councillor Robinson have gained, but there's no expertise unless we hire somebody that can say whether it can be kept or not. So to say here that the writing's on the wall because Landmark says it is, in a report that I haven't even been able to read because it wasn't shared long enough to be read, there's a reason why that report was pulled. And it's disappointing that that council's flip-flopping on this tonight. It's disappointing that for $5,000 we can't see what we've got, because in the past we spent money on consultants to make sure that the water treatment plant was unsavable before we were forced to take it down. This is a really, to me, an unacceptable precedent that we're setting tonight. And I don't know, for $5,000, that's the path, and extremely disappointing. So any other questions, Marpenko?
Yeah, I guess I don't have a chance to weigh in yet, but it's potentially 5 to 10 to start, but then that only tells us whether we should be taking another step, which is another 20 to 30. which could then lead to another 45, and eventually a lot more if we decided we wanted to preserve it. Just the engineering work to determine what work would have to be done to preserve it, including paint and repairs, etc., would be probably a couple $100,000 in itself, and then the work to be done. And I suspect we're talking 7 figures, and I don't see a reasonable path forward to do that. And I think Councillor McKinnon said it best: the old girl doesn't owe us anything, and it will be a shame to see it go. And I think it's been a landmark that's been here 102 years. And but I think to take any further steps tonight to investigate the possibility of preserving it is going to lead us down a road where we're looking at, no matter what, significant cost. And I'm not happy it's $300,000, almost $400,000 to take it down. That seems completely unreasonable. And I hope that we come up with a competitive process and some multiple bidders to get a better price on that. But no, I will go with majority, and we'll have to say goodbye to the old girl.
Just on that, Your Worship, through the chair, I did previously reach out to 2 different contractors, and they were both in the ballpark of that 350,000. So I believe that to be market value, but we will go to a formal procurement process to find out.
So I'm going to make one final comment that the Municipal Heritage Committee had been in dialogue with Valet. This is an engineering firm that specializes in these kind of projects. So I don't have any reason to believe that they would be leading us on or giving us bad advice, or that the $5,000 is an unreasonable estimate. And I don't think that they would have even gone that far if there was some kind of red flag. They reviewed the landmark reports before they sent us that number, and they've got all the same information we do. So there's something at the Horseshoe here that people have figured out, the consultant hasn't figured out, but I don't know what that is. I think it's really unfortunate that this council will go down in history as being responsible for destroying 3 century-old structures in that park, and that's not a legacy I'll be proud of. So it's unfortunate, but I see the consensus, and if there's no further questions, we'll move forward. All right, thank you, Director McMunn. We'll move to traffic signal improvements.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. The next report I have in front of you is award of contract 26-PW-011, which is our traffic signal improvements. This report seeks council approval to award contract 26-PW-11 for traffic signal improvements to Black & McDonald Limited in the amount of $202,777.15, including the town's portion of HST. The work includes replacing one traffic signal controller at the Broadview Avenue and Brockville Street intersection, installing microwave traffic detection systems at the intersection of Elmslie and Cornelia and Old Slies and Queen Street, upgrading accessible pedestrian push buttons, and installing fire service preemption systems at 8 intersections throughout town. These upgrades are part of the town's ongoing program to modernize traffic signal infrastructure. Following previous replacement programs, 6 outdated traffic controllers still remain, and this project continues the planned replacement schedule while improving accessibility and emergency response capabilities. The project was publicly tendered with 2 bids received, the first being from Black & McDonald Limited, submitting the lowest compliant bid at $199,270, excluding our portion of HST, compared to $210,000 from the second bidder. Staff have reviewed the submissions and recommend award of the contract to Black & McDonald. The approved 2026 capital budget for this work was $200,000. The final project cost exceeds the budget by $2,777.15, and staff are recommending this minor shortfall be funded from the tax base reserve. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to stop and take any questions.
Councillor McKenna.
Thank you. I'm just curious how you choose, say, Brockville and Broadview over Cornelia and William. Is it how the age of them or the volume or?
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor McKenna. It really has nothing to do with volume. We're just picking away at the intersections at the balance of intersections that we still need to get to replacing controllers. So as you're aware, council would be aware, a number of years ago when I started here in 2021, I was looking at our traffic signal infrastructure that we have in town, notably the controllers and the fact that they were quite aged. We do have annual and fall inspections that we have our electrical contractor do for the traffic controllers, and there were a number of deficiencies, and it was noted that these have reached their end of service life and we ought to implement a program. So it's there's really no rhyme or reason in terms of which ones we pick away at. We're just checking them off the list.
I'm supportive of just they're all important. So thank you.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, and I support your recommendation as well. It's a little side question just on traffic lights. The one that was replaced at Main and Beckwith after the collision is yellow. Do we have a black one on order?
We do.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, just on that for council and folks at home listening this evening. Yeah, so we put in temporary measures just to get us through, but there is still work to do on the traffic signal head. There was another traffic signal post that was damaged on the opposing side of the street that was clipped on the way through by the vehicle. And there's a hydroelectrical box that was hit on the north side of Main Street as well before that car went across the intersection. So all that work's being looked at. There's still a little bit of work to do yet, but we'll get there. Yeah.
I have a question on how many. We've been adding these sensors and we've been adding the new controls. So how many intersections are going to still be left to get the sensors to operate them based on volume?
So you're talking about the microwave systems? That's a good question. I'd have to go back and look and ask staff how many are left. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
But after this, we'll get Elmsley and Cornelia will be running on sensors, and
Elmsley and Cornelia, yes.
Broadview and Brockville.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And Old Slice.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing thumbs up, we'll bring that forward to council. Then we've got non-eligible source location business recycling report, and we'll let
Bye-bye. Just the four of us.
all right.
Seems like in clear room, Mr. Chair. So the next report I have is for the non-eligible source locations. So this report provides council with an update on the commercial recycling program following the deferral of the previous recommendation to cancel the service. Since Ontario transitioned to a full producer responsibility blue box program on January 1st, 2026, approximately 220 businesses in Smiths Falls are no longer eligible for provincially funded recycling collection and have been relying on municipal support for the service. Following additional consultation with businesses, the Downtown Business Association and Glenview Iron and Metal, who are our contractor, staff found that approximately 38 businesses remain interested in participating in the fee-for-service recycling program. While participation levels are not high enough to achieve full cost recovery, there is still demonstrated demand for the service. Staff evaluated several options, including maintaining service for all businesses, limiting service to specific areas, or canceling the program in its entirety. Cancellation was not recommended because it would reduce service levels, negatively impact the downtown streetscape, and run counter to the town's environmental objectives. As a result of discussions with the town's contractor, Glenview Iron and Metal has agreed to reduce the annual contract price to approximately $50,000 plus variable tonnage costs. down from the original contract value, which was around $72,000 a year. Staff are recommending a hybrid approach that continues the service, allows businesses to opt in, and charges participating businesses $27.25 per month. The remaining costs that cannot be recovered through user fees would be funded through the 2026 operating budget. The report also recommends that Council continue advocating through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for legislative changes that would make producers responsible for recycling services at non-eligible commercial locations, eliminating the need for municipalities and businesses to fund a separate system. So the key takeaways from this summary are staff are recommending a practical compromise that maintains recycling service for businesses that want it, supports environmental goals and the downtown core and our businesses, and reduces program costs through a renegotiated contract. And further, that it recognizes a full cost recovery and recognizes that full cost recovery is not currently achievable. So with that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
I've got a slight ramble. Our commercial tax ratio is 1.966, and nearly 30% of the municipality's total property tax revenue comes from commercials. So in practical terms, for every dollar that a resident pays in municipal taxes, a business pays approximately $1.97. So I believe it's reasonable for businesses to expect a basic level of municipal service in return, and something as straightforward as access to recycling should not be a source of frustration or additional financial burden. So I don't think we should be charging businesses a monthly fee for recycling. If we want to be a community that attracts new investment and supports entrepreneurs and retains existing businesses, then our policies should reflect that commitment rather than adding new costs for services that many would reasonably expect to be included. So I'm not asking for them to get special treatment. I'm just saying, you know, it would be fair if they received it for what they end up paying in taxes to the community. That's all.
Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, I think I said the same thing last time. It was 70,000, and I mean the property taxpayer in Smith Falls, the average person looks to the municipality to plow the streets, provide clean water, have your toilet flush, and you pay taxes for that. And the other one is garbage collection. So, and I think that I think I said it the last time, I think the province has dropped the ball, and I'm glad that AMO is active on this file. And I know that in our neighbors around us have done various things. Some are continuing the program to their businesses, and I support that. Some are doing certain areas, and some are charging. So I think that especially for our businesses, and I think the Chamber and the DBA have done a terrific job in supporting them, and I think that we should be supporting them as well. So I agree with my colleague on this.
Councillor McKenna.
I'm 100% supportive of keeping at the province to get this included and changes made for our community. I didn't have time and didn't think to look at our policy on cost recovery, but we have a wide range of programs and services that we deliver, and we seek the cost recovery or to try and break even on that. And I don't know if there's an overarching policy in there that says we shall seek to recover costs wherever. I don't know how we decide what goes in and what goes out. And I wanted to revisit that, but
Zero Mars.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And so through the chair, I would say we don't have a formal policy, but we do generally separate kind of the essential services that are paid through taxation versus elective services that usually have a fee associated with them. So to rent a baseball diamond, that's an elective decision, and there's a cost associated with that. So Councillor Brennan and Councillor Robinson bring up a good point. Is this part of their taxes? Should it be covered through taxation? And so I don't know that there's a clear answer to that. I would offer that some larger businesses, we don't pick up their garbage. They have large bins and that's privately collected. So my suggestion is we segregate those that have private garbage collection. I don't think we should be picking up their recyclables if we don't pick up their garbage, just for consistency. I think in this case, it'd be a small percentage that have private garbage collection. But I think generally, it's acknowledged around this table that we think it's not wise policy on the part of the province, and we should try and change that. But I think ultimately, I think most are viewing this as a required public service. But I would also say that if the municipality spends more money to get that service, it shows up on the tax bill. That's the only source of money we have to pay for it. So it might not be a direct user fee, but everyone pays for it through their taxes. And this is 50,000 we did not budget in 2026.
Yeah, so a couple of points. Of the 220 businesses that we tried to solicit a response from, going back a number of months, to whether or not they wanted to opt in or go at it on their own and deal with their own recycling. Of those 220, they were originally part and parcel of the town's Blue Box program back in the day before the transition came down the pipeline. So of those 220 businesses, they would put out recycling that would be closely mirroring that of a residential property in terms of what they would put out curbside for collection. So we're not necessarily talking about businesses that have, the amount of volume that would fill a 6-yard dumpster. That's not what we're talking about. Those businesses, they do facilitate their own waste and recycling pickup. So I just wanted to note that these 220 businesses are simply like you and I would put out at our home, maybe marginally a little bit more, but it's along that same theme. Secondly, I wanted to note before I forget that the $50,000 that I was able to renegotiate with GIM was predicated on a much smaller volume than 220 businesses, meaning the 38 that have signed up to participate. So if it were council's direction to fully pay for this program, with the hopes that down the line AMO gets a little bit of traction with the province and things change, where CMO would be paying for this service of our 220 properties, then yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the $50,000 renegotiated price, contingent on council's approval, I would suspect that will revert back to the 72,000 and change if we're going to open it up to all of those businesses that we originally tried to solicit a response from, if that makes sense. Because I would suspect, just through the chair, I would suspect that all of those 220 may now come back to the town and say, well, we've made certain provisions to deal with our own, but if the town's going to pay for it anyways, and you are paying for it anyways in the $72,000, and we want to put our stuff out at the curb.
Yeah, I just wanted to check on the policy, and it's not a policy. So I'm actually don't have a problem with, it's $12,500 out of the 50 that we would collect in user fees. And I'm assuming that the 38 businesses signed up, you said, if we were to charge a small fee, would you be interested? And they said yes. And so that's why I'm comfortable supporting your recommendation tonight, knowing that at some point we'll have a breakthrough with the province and be able to kick those costs back to where they belong.
I guess this, how many of the 38 are in the Downtown Business Association?
Not many. The majority of them are on the periphery. I think there's about a third in the downtown core. Yeah.
I guess it's easy. It's the kind of thing that, because recycling and garbage pickup has always been provided by the municipality, people believe that it's a municipal service, but recycling, the province has said, is now a provincial service, excluding certain properties. I don't like the idea of us taking on the cost of this when we're not supposed to be paying for it. If people are okay with paying $27 a month, I'm okay with that. But I really want to see this looked at in a year's time. I like the DBA's idea of having a depot where if they want to come and drop stuff off, there's a place to drop stuff off at a fixed time, and we can save the collection costs, because I feel like that must be a significant portion of the $50,000.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, just to that that point, yes, you're absolutely right. A majority of the costs are associated with driving the truck out through the route and staffing it. The tonnage cost for the collection is marginal at best. It's a low amount on a monthly basis. So,
but I'm seeing split on where we're at. How does it work when there's 4?
It's defeated.
Say we don't.
Tie.
It would still be. It would be a tie vote, and if it was that a motion was on the table, it would be lost.
Can I?
Councilor Brennan?
Yeah, the other thing, I mean, we had what I found to be quite a shocking presentation on our waste management a few months ago, where they started talking about organics, clear bags, a few other things that people, and I had the same sort of reaction because you know, the taxes aren't cheap, and so I struggle with this, but you know, if this goes down, then we just stay status quo and we pay for it. Is that what's happening? If this, we're obviously we have 2 different sets of opinions here, 2 and 2. So if that stays the same, then there'll be no going to council again with it, right? There'll be no motion at council, or will it?
That would ultimately be up to council. Who could remove it from the agenda, and hope that that the tie can be broken and bring it back to a future committee of the whole. They can proceed with the motion on the agenda, and chances are, if it stays the way it is right now, it would be 2-2, and it would be lost.
Okay, or we could defer.
Yes.
Well, I thought your question, I thought your question was what happens if it doesn't. So we don't have a policy.
Yeah.
Then it's up to businesses to figure it out, because we're not going to pick it up anymore.
Is that what?
That's what I thought.
CO Morse?
So I think we have to separate the motion from the practice. So the motion is the recommendation for cost recovery for those participating. So if that's lost, we don't seek cost recovery. Correct? Because that's the motion, is to eliminate cost recovery.
Right.
So so the only thing we could do is revert to our current practice, which is not charging.
Yeah.
So the default is not charging, and we're currently picking this stuff up.
And not charging.
And on a tie vote. So could we agree to take another look at this in a year with maybe the depot idea, and see if there's a way, just see what kind of usage it's getting, and what, because like my concern with it isn't that, you know, businesses pay higher taxes and they'd like it picked up, but the province has changed the game on this, and if we just go along with it, we're the ones, as usual, that seem to pick up the tab. So when we talk about that FCM stuff where we got to change the funding model, this is 50 grand out of our budget that we didn't budget for.
So I just want to make sure we're clear on the procedural gymnastics here. Right?
So yes, I'm unclear what the action currently is right now. So the staff recommendation as it reads is to authorize Glenview Iron and Metal for the collection for the commercial recycling, and that individual businesses deemed to be non-eligible and opt in pay an apportioned amount of $27.25 per month. And then it goes on with the contract value with Glenview Iron and Metal, and that we continue our lobbying efforts with AMO. So if this motion was to go as is onto the council agenda, and it was lost as is, then there is procedural issues to bring it back with it after a year and all of that.
Yeah, so I would take it off of the council agenda for this evening. And then
Zero Morris.
But I think we need a formal resolution from council.
Either way.
Either way. So if it's lost, it's lost. But then we documented that loss, which means we continue with what we're doing without cost recovery.
So this motion can be amended. This motion isn't on the table. This is staff's recommendation. So we're at a point right now where it can be, whatever the decision of council is, a motion can be prepared for council's wishes.
Well, if we defer this or take it off the table, can we get it into what Councillor McGuire was discussing about a depot, like at a later time? Look into a depot drop-off scenario where they can just take it at certain times. I would be okay with something like that as long as we weren't charging them to drop it off.
yeah.
Zero Morris.
Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I've been around for a while, so my experience has been if councilors have questions or concerns about a certain topic at a committee of the whole, and they want more time or information, then that's fine. And, we've always agreed to that type of thing. So I don't know why you need something tonight. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm not stating that we need something tonight. Ultimately, we will need something on the agenda for direction.
Yeah, so.
Councillor Paquette.
There's also direction in there that we lobby the province, so we don't want to lose that.
Oh.
Again, I'm just going back to speaking in favor of the motion. It's just I don't think this is a long-term solution. This cost recovery, I think it will come to a change down the road. But many businesses have their own, as the CEO mentioned, because they're so big. They have their own dumpsters. They pay for it themselves. And some of them are so small, they just take it home and put it in their recycling bin. I mean, and we're not going to get into that business of monitoring it. But there's that other group in the middle that I've just felt that the 20 some bucks a month is reasonable. And on the principle, again, of we do cost recovery or try to on many other, this isn't even full cost recovery. This is a highly subsidized service we're offering. So.
Director McGlynn.
Yeah, and I'll look to the CAO to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think procedurally, the first recommendation that I have on this report, and I'll read it, the council pass a resolution to continue the agreement with Glenview Iron and Metal for the collection of non-eligible source location recycling. And why I feel that important is because the recommendation that I had drafted for the previous report that was pulled from the agenda, it stated that council pass a resolution to cancel the contract agreement with Glenview Iron and Metal for the curbside collection of recycling material from non-eligible source locations. So I do understand that was pulled, but I think it's important if we're going to pass any resolution tonight. Sounds to me like we're leaning towards status quo for the short term. That form, that in and of itself at least form the resolution here this evening.
With the exception, it sounds like if we're going to lose because we would lose the cost recovery, the 27.25, that's the issue. So if we took that out, So we continue with Glenview Iron Metal, we continue to lobby the province, and continue to offer the service.
Yeah, through the chair, we have not. So we provided those 38 properties with letters throughout this process, so they're well aware that there will be a contractual agreement between the town and those 38 properties to enter an agreement for cost recovery. We have not implemented that to date because the whole program is still somewhat in question. But they're aware that there's a potential that they will have to pay their apportioned amount.
Sierra Morris.
I think we have to remember we're in committee right now. If it goes to council, you could do a friendly amendment to change it and get what there seems to be consensus that we want to continue collecting. We want to lobby the province and we want to bring this back in a year. Is that safe to say? Yeah. So you could defeat, if you want to take this to council, defeat the motion as presented in the recommendation and then add an amended, would it be amended or a new one? I guess it would be a new one in that case, coalescing around the three things that you do agree on.
But the collecting as we are is where the disagreement is. It's only the other two that there's consensus for.
Right. So that's why it would be important to take the motion forward and defeat it. Mm-hmm. Then we have clear instruction that we're not going to pursue cost recovery. So the only the default is that we continue with what we're doing today, and that's collecting it without cost recovery.
But then we lose the AMO and we lose the review it in a year.
You could do a separate motion to cover those things.
Okay, split them up then. Okay, so we'll split it up and bring it to council and vote for it that way.
We won't split it up. We'll have them ready to go, but we have this will come forward like it is, and we'll defeat it and then bring up the other two.
This one needs to die, pardon the expression, and then you bring back something that everyone can agree on.
All right. Consensus of seeing nodding heads. I didn't expect that one to be one of the longer ones tonight.
Well,
thank you, Director Budd. That rounds off your good night. Get everybody back and go to 9.5 Regional Sport and Recreation Facilities Steering Committee.
Hopefully you can juggle those balls.
Okay. I'm back again before you, asking for your approval this evening to appoint the following individuals to the Regional Sport and Recreation Facility Steering Committee. They are Megan MacArthur, Mark Bruss, Joan Culleton, and Jonathan Botham. We will work to fill the fifth position that is currently available. Additionally, I'm seeking your approval to formally appoint those who were selected by our regional partners. For Merrickville-Wolford, that is Deputy Mayor Ann Parr, and an alternate, Councillor Margaret Girl. Drummond North Elmsley is Reeve Steve Fournier, an alternate as John Matheson. From Elizabethtown Kitley, Councillor Rob Smith. They have not provided an alternate at this time. And for Montague, Reeve Karen Jennings with an alternate, Jeffrey Carroll. Rideau Lakes has, as I've mentioned previously, declined to participate at this time, subject to the municipal election. Our intention is to get involving you as well. The initial inaugural meeting started in August, and so we are hoping to send out acceptance letters as soon as we get approval and move forward as soon as we can.
I'm seeing nodding heads, thumbs up, so we'll bring that to council tonight. Thank you. So we'll take a motion to move in camera. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that we move in camera to a closed meeting at 6:59 p.m. to discuss a personnel matter about an identifiable individual. All in favor? That's carried.
Franco, we're back on.
All right, staff or council gave staff direction regarding personnel matter about an identifiable individual. Do we have any?
Chair,
Yeah.
if I may?
Oh, sorry, yeah, and Mayor.
Yes,
Franco.
when we went into the closed session, I realized I may have a potential conflict of interest with the subject matter, and I removed myself from discussions and will declare a conflict publicly.
Thank you.
Okay.
So with that, if we have any information or correspondence items, no. Notice of motion. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Brennan. That the committee adjourn its proceedings at 7:20 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called committee meeting. All in favor? That's carried.
2-minute recess till council.
Maybe 5.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of Smith Falls Town Council for Monday, June 29th, 2026. On Monday, June 29th, 2026, we acknowledge that the sacred land in which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years in its rich and indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:35 p.m. We have amended agenda. Please note we'll add item 9.5, which relates to the traffic analysis for the Beckwith and Lombard intersection. Relates to the construction project there. Looking for motion to approve the agenda, which is with Councilor McGuire, please.
I'd also suggest that we move 9.1 to a future meeting because it's our best practice that we usually follow, that we don't approve stuff on the same night that we've discussed it unless there's an urgency, and there's no urgency with 9.1.
To my colleagues and consensus to remove or retain?
Retain.
I'm fine to remove it. I'm fine to remove
Fine to
it.
remove it. Councillor Quinn,
No retain.
retain.
And to my left, keep it on tonight's agenda.
Okay, we will proceed with the agenda as amended. Okay. Do you still wish to approve move the motion for the approval?
No, I'll vote against the agenda.
Councillor Costello?
Excuse me,
Councillor Costello?
if we could formally add item 9.5 to the agenda, the intersection of Beckwith and Lombard.
We had.
We had done that, my apologies.
That's okay. Councillor McCann, do you mind moving the agenda?
As amended?
Yes.
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that the June 29th special council meeting agenda be approved as amended.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor Robinson. The June 29th, 2026 special council meeting agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Allows for disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest and general nature thereof. Yes, Councillor Miller?
So I have a conflict with 9.3 for business recycling.
Yes, Councillor Quinn?
I have conflict with 9 point, is it 9.3 or 9.3?
9.3. Yes. Yes.
I have that conflict.
Okay, and as do I, we all declared the same conflict in committee of the whole. So Councillor McGuire, I'll pass the chair to you when we come to that point in the agenda, please. Thank you. Okay, motion for approval of minutes is with Councillor McKenna.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that the minutes of June 1st, 2026 and June 15th, 2026 council meetings be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Robinson. The minutes of June 1st, 2026 and June 15th, 2026 council meeting be approved as circulated. All in favor? That is carried. Councillor reports. Councillor Quinn?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just so excited about this. We had a meeting at the Railway Museum this morning, and I want to tell everyone how the Father's Day fundraiser event went for a new roof, working towards a new roof for the Railway Museum. And we actually brought in $10,169.95 that day. So it was wonderful, and I just had to tell them.
That's great. Thank you. And thank Tim Norris for filling the
Tim
crowd
Norris
and
pulled the caboose 83 feet. Was amazing, just amazing.
oh, that's super. Thank you. Councillor Brown, do you have a report as well?
Oh, sure. Yesterday, the Recreation Hall of Fame had their induction ceremony at the Upper Arena. Tim was there, by the way, and I heard he's got a job with CN now. I don't know what. Anyway, we had a great ceremony, very emotional, and about 160 people in attendance, and the recipients were beyond happy. So I'd invite people to go and look at along the walking track to see our Recreation Hall of Fame, and there'll be new members there soon. And I didn't write them down tonight, but I don't think I can. Amy Doyle, Kim McKenney, Alicia Morrison, and Skinner, George Skinner. He's long gone, but he used to play for the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, and two teams: the Smith Falls Teddy Bears, the 1956-57 Ritos, and two sites. So they're starting to do historical sites of recreation in Smith Falls. One is Ryan's Park, and the other one is the CP Stadium down where the arena was. So great. I'm looking forward to next year.
Great. Thank you. Any presentations or proclamations? We do not. Consent agenda? We do not. We have a number of motions. Our first is with Councillor Brennan, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robinson. That the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls direct staff to undertake a competitive process to obtain proposals to demolish the out-of-service water tower in Confederation Park.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Brennan?
Well, it's bittersweet, but I think council or majority of council has enough information about a 100-year-old piece of infrastructure that is not going to be able to be maintained in any way, shape, or form for very long in the future. So this tough decision for us, and certainly grew up with it, but I think it's the right one going forward, and it might open opportunities for that park for us. So bittersweet, and as Councillor McKenna said, the old girl's got to go.
Thank you for the discussion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Very disappointed by seeing this on the agenda tonight because it was only discussed at committee of the whole. It's best practice to have this come up at the next scheduled council meeting and not on the same night because there's nothing urgent about it. I think it's really surprising that the council's flipped its decision the way it has from the previous meeting where this was discussed. We're going against our policies in our Heritage Conservation District. We're going against the recommendation of the Municipal Heritage Committee. We have a licensed professional engineer that's on the opinion that for $5,000 we can determine if the rivets are still good. That has reviewed all of the landmark studies and all of the things that have been provided to council. So we don't know that it's not savable, but we're deciding to give up on it tonight. We haven't followed this for Confederation Bridge or for the water treatment plant before we tore it down. We paid for the engineering report, we got the advice, and then we followed the advice, or we had the insurance company give us the option. This one, we're not even doing that for $5,000. 102-year-old structure, landmark for Smith Falls, the #1 photographed structure in Smith Falls, I would argue. And it's not worth $5,000 tonight. So I think it's a shame on council. It's a shame that we'll have been responsible for demolishing 3 century-plus old buildings that were in our property. And I don't think that if anybody's thinking there's going to be some grand development happening underneath it, if you look at the line, the property boundary with Parks Canada, you'll probably have a hard time figuring out what we can fit in there. So this is a mistake that will go down in the history of Smith Falls as another structure lost.
Commentary.
And a recorded vote's requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't often disagree with Councillor McGuire, but tonight I don't feel any shame. It's not, I don't want the public to think that for $5,000 we could save the water tower. That's not what was on the agenda tonight. The $5,000 was an initial small amount of money to see if it was even worth investing more to do an analysis to determine whether it was salvageable. So it wasn't $5,000, we've saved the water tower. It's a lot more than that. And it's a long runway down that road. So I'm not sure which 3 structures you're referring to. If you're referring to the buildings that burned down, council wasn't responsible for that. And the water tower, eventually, if not today, it's leaking. It will become a liability. And it, as I said, it has served its time. It's been earned its keep, and it's like other assets. I'm not we aren't, I don't believe the public or the town is in a position to spend large amounts of money to keep that for people to take pictures of. It's not viable. So I'm ready to move ahead this evening and have that discussion.
Thank you. Any further? It is moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Robinson, that Council Corporation of Town of Smith Falls direct staff to undertake a competitive process to obtain proposals to demolish the out-of-service water tower in Confederation Park. And I believe we all make this decision with a high degree of regret. I think it's something that it's been here for much longer than any one of us. It's something that's an icon in our community. But again, I think it's the majority of the council in the situation agrees that there's not a business case to invest the money needed to preserve something that at some point in time it's well beyond its end of life now. And to invest it in preserving it even for a number of years is going to be exorbitantly expensive when we know we have a lot of other financial needs in our community. So I will support this, and I ask the question, those in favor?
A recorded vote.
Pardon?
We're doing a recorded vote.
I did have a request for a recorded vote.
I requested a recorded
Oh, sorry, I
vote.
didn't hear that. Okay.
Thank you. If members could either reply with yay or nay. Councillor Brennan?
Yay.
Councillor Quinn?
Yay.
Councillor Miller?
Nay.
Councillor McKenna?
Yay.
Councillor Robinson?
Yay.
Councillor McGuire?
Nay.
Mayor Panko?
Yay.
Carried.
Thank you. On to Councillor Quinn.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Miller, that a contract number 26-PW-011 traffic signal improvements be awarded to Black and McDonald Limited for the supply and installation of 1 traffic controller, 5 microwave traffic sensor systems, 2 intersection upgrades to accessible pedestrian push buttons, and 8 preemption systems at various intersections. And further, that the council authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute a contract agreement with Black and McDonald Limited for the amount of $202,777.15, including the town's portion of the HST as presented in Committee of Whole Report 2026-089.
Further discussion, Councillor Quinn?
This is an upgrade to the traffic lights, and it's wonderful to see this happen.
Numerous locations throughout town. Any further comments? Moved by Councillor Quinn, second by Councillor Miller. The contract number 26-PW-011 traffic signal improvements be awarded to Black and McDonald Ltd. for supply and installation of 1 traffic controller, 5 microwave traffic sensor systems, 2 intersection upgrades to accessible pedestrian push buttons, and 8 preemption systems at various intersections. And further, council authorized the mayor and clerk to execute a contract agreement with Black McDonald Ltd. for the amount of $202,777.15, including the town's portion of the HST, as presented in Committee of the Whole Report 2026-089. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Councillor, okay, so
You got this.
Councillor McGuire, I need you to take over 9-3, please.
And this one's with Councillor McKenna. All right, Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls authorize the continuance of the agreement with Glenview Iron and Metal for the collection of non-eligible source location recycling, and that council and senior management continue lobbying efforts through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for the province to amend legislation to shift the financial responsibility from municipalities to producers for the collection and management of non-eligible source location recycling as presented in Committee of the Whole Report 2026-091, and further that staff be directed to report back to council in 1 year.
All right. I read it first.
You can ask for,
Discussion. Discussion.
thank you, Your Acting Worship. The province changed the legislation so that producers of packaging and other recycling materials are actually charged with the collection of it, and that burden shifted from municipalities to the manufacturers and producers of this product. And the burden shifted only for municipal residential collection. It did not shift to the small business section or to the business section. They were left silent on that. So the town of Smiths Falls is trying to sort out, like all other 400 municipalities in Ontario, how do they, what is their role now in collection of these recyclable materials? And at this point, this recommendation is that council would continue to subsidize the producers of this material by paying for the pickup in our commercial sector. And that we'll revisit that in 1 year, and we'll continue to lobby the province to see if we can have this omission corrected. I think that's a pretty good summary.
Right. Moved by Councillor McKenna, seconded by myself. Can I second it if I'm chairing?
I would have Councillor Robinson second.
You don't have to do it. Seconded by Councillor Robinson, that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls authorize the continuance of the agreement with Glenview Iron Metal for the collection of non-eligible source location recycling, and that Council and senior management continue lobbying efforts through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for the province to amend legislation to shift the financial responsibility for municipalities to producers for the collection and management of non-eligible source location recycling as presented in the Committee of the Whole Report 2026-091, and further that staff be directed to report back to Council in 1 year. All in favor? That's carried. Sorry. I couldn't find it when I needed it.
Thank you, Councillor McGuire, for looking after that. On to 9.4, Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brennan that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls appoint the following individuals as community representatives to the Regional Sport and Recreation Facility Project Steering Committee: Megan MacArthur, Mark Bruss, Joan Culleton, and Jonathan Botham for the duration of the project or the dissolution of the steering committee by council, and that the following political representatives and their alternate from our partner municipalities be appointed for the duration of the project or the dissolution of the steering committee by council: Merrickville Wolford, Deputy Mayor Ann Barr, Councillor Margaret Gural, alternate; Drummond North Elmsley, Reeve Steve Fournier, John Matheson, alternate; Elizabethtown Kitley, Councillor Rob Smith; Montague, Reeve Karen Jennings, Deputy Reeve Jeffrey Carroll is alternate; and that council directs staff to continue recruitment efforts to fill the remaining community representative vacancy in accordance with the approved terms of reference.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Just first, a shout out to our neighbors for joining us in this work. It's important work to look at the development of a new regional sports facility, and these things go better when we work together.
Thank you. Any further comments? Moved by Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Brennan. Council Corporation of Town of Smiths Falls appoint the following individuals as community representatives to the Regional Sport and Recreation Facility Project Steering Committee: Megan MacArthur, Mark Bruss, Joan Culleton, and Jonathan Botham for the duration of the project or the dissolution of the steering committee by council, and the following political representatives and their alternate from our partner municipalities be appointed for the duration of the project or the dissolution of their steering committee by council: Merrickville Wolford, Deputy Mayor Ann Barr, Councillor Margaret Gural as the alternate; Drummer North Elmsley, Reese C. Fournier, John Matheson as alternate, Elizabeth Town Kitley, Councillor Rob Smith, Montague Reeve, Karen Jennings, Deputy Reeve, Jeffrey Carroll as alternate, and council direct staff to continue the recruitment process to fill the remaining community representative vacancy in accordance with the approved terms of reference. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And our final formal piece of business is the addition of 9.5 with Councillor McKenna, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miller. That Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls direct staff to engage TSI to conduct an intersection analysis of the channelization lane at the Beckwith Street and Lombard Street intersection, and that council approved this at a budget expenditure of $25,000.
Okay, further discussion?
This is really a bigger, small part of our bridge rehabilitation on Beckwith Street. The southernmost bridges on Beckwith. We're doing that total rehabilitation thanks to a provincial grant. So while we're in that area and adjusting that intersection, we'll be improving the signalization and some of the lane changes. We took the opportunity to have a broader look at the safety aspects of it, both for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists in that order. And we had a really good input from the town's accessibility committee asking us to consider really taking a hard look at that right-hand turn lane and seeing if that's the best option. And so council agreed that we would spend the extra money, take a little bit of extra time and look at a redesign that features that accommodates and focused on people's safety and use of the intersection.
Thank you. Any further comments? Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Miller. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls directs staff to engage TSI to conduct intersection analysis of the channelization lane at Beckwith and Lombard Street intersection. The council approve of this out of budget expenditure of $25,000. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any inquiries or announcements? Seeing none, no confirmatory bylaw. Motion for adjournment is with Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that council adjourn its proceedings at 7:57 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called council meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Brennan. This council adjourns proceedings at 7:57 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called council meeting. All in favor? We are adjourned. And no council meeting next week. We return on the 13th. Have a good night, everyone.